Talisman, the quest for the crown of command. In this vlog, we're going to ask the question, the most powerful, the most broken character in Talisman. Now, of course, asking that question, just what's in play? Are we talking about core? Are we talking about some of these small box expansions like the Reaper? Or are we talking everything is in play, small expansions and the bigger expansions like the city and the Highlands? That stack of characters, that deck of characters goes from pretty big to really, really, really big. And then from that perspective, because there are some pretty powerful, broken characters in that deck, the randomness of Talisman, what is your chances of drawing those characters? Now, rules is written, mix up the characters, draw a random character, that's what you get. And if you get yourself killed, then you draw another character. I kind of play with our group a little bit between the two. Since we play with all the expansions all the time and all the characters, shuffle up the characters, draw 3. You have a couple of seconds, 10 seconds, 15 seconds to kind of look at those 3 characters and see the synergy or see what you want to play. Maybe look at the other players. It's hidden information. We're not revealing our characters yet. Seeing who's trying to hide a smile, see who's really excited, see who has absolute disappointment. Pick one character, and then we all reveal at once. So this way, there's a good chance that based on the tactics, you can draw a character that you're proficient with or one that you feel solid with. And then, of course, if you do get killed, then you randomly draw another character. So from that perspective, the most powerful characters in the game are, first, this is kind of the checklist, ones that are independent of other characters being on the table. The perfect example is, and we can debate, certainly, I don't think the spy is the most powerful character, but we want to kind of examine it from that perspective. The spy allows you to shadow and follow other characters. They're a spy. So in a game that has a lot of players, well, 4 or more players, or a game that has a good amount of players and is just restricted to the core board, you're playing with the core game, the spy is a little bit more powerful than average. If you're playing with all the expansions and you're playing 4 to 6 players, players are a little bit more spread out. It's not as powerful as you might think. So the first thing that we're going to kind of weed through are characters that have some ability that requires other characters in play. So they're removed from that deck because they're just a little bit too, not that it's a bad thing, I love random in Talisman, they're a little bit too random. Second to that, characters that have higher than average starting attributes. In the beginning of the game, they're powerful, right? If you start out with 3 craft, 3 life, or 3 strength, 3 life, or 4, that's about average. But some of the characters will have 4s or 5s or 6s or higher. That starting attribute, yes, it's powerful because anything beyond 3 or 4, now those are trophies that you don't have to potentially trade in, where the other players do have to trade in. So in the beginning of the game, you do have an advantage. We've talked about in the Talisman Tactica that I pushed up to the channel here under the playlist, this idea of beginning game, mid game, end game. In the beginning of the game, you are more powerful. So certainly you want to utilize that momentum to gain an advantage in terms of going for the quest of the Crown of Command. You have some additional potential game turns compared to the other players. But does that make a character broken? I don't think so, because it quickly erodes. It quickly recedes. By mid-game, everyone's now starting to be strength and craft 6, 7, 8, 9. You're starting to push to double digits, moving into the end game or the end of the mid game to the end game. So in exploring that, I wouldn't say those characters are overly broken. Let's talk about special abilities. Now, some of the characters have special abilities that are kind of always on, or you can use at multiple points. And a lot of them are combat related, which is going to give you an advantage, because half of the game with encounters, strength or craft, is going to be strength-based combat. So characters that, the Minotaur, like Stampede, plus your movement dice to it. Or characters like the base fighter, the warrior. Roll 2 dice, take the best. Other examples would be characters that can utilize certain bonuses built in. That's powerful too, and that's consistent across the entire game. Because if you have one of those characters and you have no gear to start and you're using just a D6, as you move through the beginning to the mid to the end game, you gain some magic objects. Maybe you have a potion, you buff yourself. You're in the double digits for your strength, if we're looking at a strength-based character, and you're adding that bonus. So that scales. That's powerful. That might be potentially annoying to face if another player is regularly using that to kind of really level up fast. But I wouldn't say it's broken, overpowered. So now we're down to 2 other character classes. And we're putting aside the character classes that are just total random. Total random. The Dark Cultist, I really like her. You do some stuff, you roll a D6 to the gods, and you get some sort of reward. Like, yeah, it's a lot of fun. Sometimes you'll get some stuff when you need it. Most of the time, you get it when you don't need it. Those type of characters are a blast to play, but the random of the character itself, based on the random of the game, while it's fun, it's not broken. It's not overpowered. But now we're looking at these 2 type of character attributes, and the characters that have these start to become extremely powerful, leading us to broken. Now, the challenge, of course, with broken or powerful characters depends on how you play the game. When we're playing I'm just talking about like my own group here. When we're playing with a kind of narrative fun group, I'll bring Talisman to the club. We've got 10 or 15 players. PvP is there. But I don't go out of my way to PvP people or kill them, because some of the players just like to explore. They've never played the game before. They understand the idea is to get the Crown of Command, but there's so much cool stuff to explore and do in the game, right? That's really kind of interesting and exciting. So I'm not going to target them. But the other group I play with, we play really, really cutthroat. We play really competitive. So when you draw certain characters that fit this 3rd and final 4th classification, I'm sorry. We got to do what we got to do. You're going to be targeted. You're going to be targeted. Just like, if you draw the rune sword, I'm trying not to give any spoilers. We can't let you have that. We've got to destroy object, or we've got to kill you or take it from you. Or at the very least, if I draw it, like run deep into the dungeon and drop it and then suddenly escape, drop it on a space with multiple cards. So you have to draw. You want the sword. Here you go. Pull it from the stone. Characters that have the ability to cast magic and essentially chain cast magic, meaning burn something and gain a spell. When you're out of a spell, burn something, gain a spell. Or at the start of the turn, you gain spells. This combined with higher than average or good starting craft lets you have a hand of spells. Now, spells are very powerful in Talisman. Even if you're playing a non-spell character, we're pursuing the ability to cast spells. Maybe through a magic ring, you put 2 spells on it, similar to the luck stone, or you're looking to educate yourself and increase your craft so you can cast spells. Spells interject random that you can control and unleash on other players. They also allow you to interact out of your game turn on other players. Now, again, the starting deck of spells in the core, solid, good, potent, powerful. As you add expansions, as you add stuff, the deck is going to expand, and there's really good spells and there's sort of okay spells. But that ability to throw out a random, to throw out a destroy object, to throw out an acquisition, the ability to throw out an immobilize, those are really, really powerful. And they are removed from the game board, meaning normally most of the time in Talisman I have to land on your space in order to affect you. This I just cast. Doesn't matter where you are on the realm. Now, yes, there are some magic objects that negate that, or your opponent might have a counter spell or some way to negate it, but they're going to burn that spell. So magic is huge. When you draw magic-based characters, that is a tremendous advantage, tremendously powerful. Now, at the beginning of the game, it's offset by lower life, or it's offset by not having a high strength. But if you can survive those initial rounds, which if you have some tactica you can, suddenly that becomes a lot more, that becomes less of an issue. The final group of characters that might have access to spells, but characters that can manipulate the cards. The ability to pick 3 cards, reshuffle them, to draw 1 card. If you don't like it, draw another. That's massive. Being able to navigate, and these are the most powerful or perhaps broken characters in all the game. The ability to navigate the adventure deck, massive. Massive. There are certain magic objects, no spoilers, that let you do that. Once you have that, it really controls the random of the game. It allows you to draw a card, and if it's an encounter I don't want to face, toss it. If it's a magic object, I'll acquire it. If it's drawing 3 cards, pick 1 and then reshuffle, then the potential there to set up opportunities depending on who's next. Those abilities are sometimes, even now, after enjoying the game for so many years, I'm still surprised at how powerful it is, and I'm still surprised that it was included in the game. I could see a magic object, because a magic object, at least you have to find it in the deck. It can be removed from play, although I guess you could remove some of these characters from play by killing them. But to have those abilities on certain characters or have their attributes where you can acquire those abilities, that's really, really powerful. So that is my list. That is my kind of checklist tactica for the most powerful and broken characters in the game. Naming specific characters really depends on the expansions, and understanding the ranking of the characters helps play into the tactica that you're going to utilize.